today. Okay. No, I have two screens, so I'm looking back and forth here. Yes. Okay, so call to order. And we're going to start our meeting January 17th, 2024, Commission of Diversity Awareness. And let's have a roll call. Commissioner Sanchez.
Present.
Yay. Happy New Year. Commissioner Jane. I see you, TJ. Probably having audio problems. Commissioner Jarvis.
Here.
Okay. Commissioner Pino, well, you said absent, excused. Commissioner Tona.
Here.
And you said Mandy also was excused? Is that correct?
That is correct. I do not see Mandy.
Okay, good. All right. So TJ, Commissioner Jane, can you hear us? Are you here or are you frozen?
He said that he's having mic issues and issues with his camera, but he's here.
Okay, wonderful, great, good. So let's start off with the mission statement. Our mission statement here at CODA is a commission to foster support, respect, awareness, and appreciation of diversity among all citizens of Flagstaff. And may I have a volunteer to read the land acknowledgement? What I can do to go ahead, and I can also share, let me share my screen so that everybody can follow.
This is Commissioner Jarvis. I can read the land acknowledgement. The Commission on Diversity Awareness humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to the indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Commissioner Jarvis. All right, and any upcoming opportunities and announcements? And with that, I will also read for the public comment. So if there are any public comments and announcements, this is the time to do so. And the Commission cannot act upon items presented during the public participation portion of the agenda. Individual Commission members may ask questions of the public, but are prohibited by open meeting law from discussion or considering the item among themselves until the item is officially placed on the agenda. Each public comment or presentation will be limited to 5 minutes. So I want to open it up for public comment, any kind of opportunities or announcements. Over to the public.
I don't see anything in the chat, Carolyn, and I don't see anybody's mic open. But hold on just a second. TJ is typing.
Okay.
Okay, TJ, that's fine. He's saying that his audio is fixed, but he still has no camera.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. All right, hearing no public comment, I want to close this this item and move on to item number 6, which is the approval of minutes. So I noticed that we have 2 minutes that we need to approve. Is that correct?
Yes, we skipped over approving the minutes for our previous meeting in November. So we need to look at November's meeting, or I'm sorry, not skipped over it. We didn't vote on it.
Okay,
So we
yes,
just
and that
need
was,
to, yeah, we
yeah,
need to make sure that we vote for the approval of both the November the 15th and December the 6th.
great. And I want to apologize. That was my fault, skipping over the voting part. So I want to open up for a vote for approval of minutes for November 15th. I'll open it up separately because there's some people who probably attended one meeting and not the other. So for November 15th, I'd like to open up a motion for the approval of minutes for November 15th. Do I have anyone?
I'll second.
Okay,
And if
And-
anyone wants to see the minutes, they were sent
Right.
as an attachment. So we'll give it a couple of moments, and then if we can move forward with the vote, and if there's no opposition, we can move to the next meeting.
okay. I'm seeing something in the chat.
Okay. So TJ has said that he's voted for approval for November minutes, but he was not here in December, so he's abstaining from December. Angelica says November looks good to her. Okay, great.
All right. So all in favor for November 15th minutes? Say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any against? And we already got the abstain. Great, thank you. So let us go ahead now and vote for the approval of minutes for December 6th, 2023. Okay, so do we have a first motion? And a second?
And Sarah Jarvis is abstaining. She was not available for the December meeting.
Okay, kind of
I'll-
read in the chat on the side. Go ahead, Commissioner Tona.
Oh, I just said I'd second.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All in favor for the approval of minutes for December 6th, 2023, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? And we already got the persons abstaining. Great. Thank you so much. All right, so the date for our next meeting is February the 21st, 2024. Do we have anyone, is that a good time for everyone, or do we have anybody want to be excused for that, or is that a good day?
Works for me.
Okay. All right, works for me too. What about you? Okay, everybody's putting stuff in the chat. Okay, great. All right, so let's move on to item number 6, action items. All right, so we want to vote on Dr. Monene's request for support for event with Sinclair Dietrich Jules at the NAU event that is coming up. Lisa, do you want to comment on this?
Okay, so what the vote you guys will be voting on is participation in this event. And Carolyn, you gave us a little bit of an overview in the December meeting. Do you want to just follow up with explaining what that was, just for those that wasn't in the December meeting? They have an opportunity to vote on whether or not they want to support or participate.
Okay, sure. And I think I saw Dr. Mallet was on here. And is it okay if I have him comment on this because he has more information?
Absolutely.
Good, wonderful. Dr. Mallet, am I putting you on the spot?
I think he's on mute.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
there we go.
Hi, Dr. Mallet. So we want to share with the commissioners and also the public on here a little more of the event, bringing Sinclair District Jewels to NAU. We just want a little synopsis on the event.
Yeah, I can. I will interpret this the best way I can, but I may be able to. I may do a little disservice to it, but I hope I don't. St. Clair Dietrich Jules is a nationally renowned speaker, especially since 2020, and one of her main presentations tends to really focus on the impact of the cultural impact of hair, particularly Black hair, and the role and impact that it is on, especially with women, Black women, and their confidence and status and how they see themselves in the whole 9 yards. And so the Commission on Ethnic Diversity wanted this not just to be an NAU event, they wanted this to be a community-wide event. And so they wanted to make sure that they're doing their best to help promote this, not only within the city of Flagstaff, with the school district, with everybody. So I think it wasn't so much of a monetary ask. It was more so along the lines of will CODA help promote this event and stand in solidarity and partnership with CED as we look to bring this event here into Flagstaff. I hope I did it some justice.
You did. And Justin, can you give the dates of the events again?
I don't know. Well, wait a minute. I may know. I know that they recently changed the dates. And so I would probably have to go back through the CED minutes. Let me see if I have that somewhere. Because in their last meeting, they talked about changing the date. So let me see if it's.
Because initially it was in March, what we have here, but I'm not sure about the change in date. Yeah.
So you may have the updated date, because I know at first it was in February.
Okay.
And now if you have that March date, that's the actual date.
Okay.
But I can confirm it. I'll reach out and see when that date is. If I get it before the meeting is, I can put it in the chat too.
Okay, wonderful. I was expecting if Dr. Muneni was here because he had sent it in writing to us, and so yeah, we can go ahead and get that more information. So commissioners, what we're looking at is to partner with NAU in this event, and what NAU is asking for is for us to do like the marketing for them. Like for instance, if they send a flyer, we just go ahead and send it out to all contact lists, and just to go ahead and give that PR and extra marketing on it. So I want to put a motion, a vote for us to support this event through CODA to support this event for March, and we will get the date coming up. And so do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Wonderful. Second by Commissioner Tona. And I remember that Councilmember House had also extended when we were speaking about it. She had asked for NAU. I don't know if it's Dr. Moneno or Dr. Mallet, if you were on here, to also to go to like LBE and also the Sunnyside and all these other associations will be, and also to the council to be a part of this event. So I just wanted to reiterate that.
Yeah, yep, and we've already talked to I know I mentioned it to LBE, as well as the Murdoch Center and a couple other places as well. And so we'll make sure that we get that out to everybody also.
Wonderful. Great. Thank you. Thank you for that. All right. So and the motion carries. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say Angelica just said thanks for the clarification. She was about to ask about what support may look like. Again, they're just asking for the commission support to send out flyers when they send it to be able to market the event.
Thank you for clarifying.
Jean
Commissioner
has asked
Turner want to know about
food.
It matters.
I'm not 100% sure what the food situation looks like. I do know because of, my guess is there may not be any food. I know because of because of us having the event on campus, you do have to go through Sodexo to get food. And then I also know that the budgets that the commissions have does not allow them to be able to get food because they're utilizing state funds for it. So that would have to be something that is completely, donated in the midst of for food and stuff.
Right. Good question there, Commissioner Turner. A good answer because we're a nonprofit too here at the county, and most of anything with federal funds, they really need to have a particular form fill out for public benefit, and it goes through all of that. But we will stay in touch if there's any way that we could bring food. Let us know. Or yeah. All right, so motion carries for us to support this event, and definitely I will be there. And so part B is an update on presentation for the fair item on equitable restrooms. And I know we were expecting a presentation on that.
Okay, I can talk about this, and I believe that Councilperson Kara House is also here. There won't be I'm really kind of chagrined to even share this, but it has already all been taken care of by City Council in 2022. They passed, they did two things. They passed a directive for equitable restrooms, basically non-gendered throughout the city facilities. And they also adopted the most current building codes, federal guidelines for building codes that include equitable restroom access. So I somehow missed that. And Kara, thank you so much for that email. So it's really been all taken care of.
Oh.
And I'm thrilled to hear that,
Wow.
I'm really, like I said, a little bit embarrassed that somehow or another I missed all that, but yay. The city has moved forward with it. And thank you, Councilperson House, very much.
Very good. Wonderful. Good news.
This is Kara. I would just say, Jean, not to be embarrassed about that, because I had reached out as well a couple times to ask about it and didn't hear anything back either. So I think it might have just kind of fallen through the cracks of folks updating anything on it. And I'm still paying attention to it because even though that's the code that was adopted and City Council did move on it at that point, I am still looking to, I want to be able to verify that that's actually the practice that's in place, because I know the restrooms in City Hall, for example, are all labeled for male, female. I don't know if there's one that is labeled for any or all. So I just don't know how it's in practice. And I think that still is worth following up on and checking in on. And I'm going to continue to do that.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, some kind of, I wonder if the municipal index shared any kind of actual audit on the restrooms. I kind of doubt it. Huh, Kara? Would they have done that?
Yeah, so they gave us the points for having adopted that motion from council and having adopted the building code policy. The thing that we did not get points for was an ordinance that would require all buildings in the city to have equitable restrooms, which the city is not probably going to do because that would be infringing on like private ownership. So that's something that I think is probably not going to happen, but I I like I'm taking the score at its word that if they are giving us the points, it means that they have verified in some way that we're in adherence to what those points were based on. Although I'm going to have an update for you later in the meeting about something that we lost points for in that equity index that I'm still pretty frustrated with. So yeah, but on this item, we got the points for having that policy in place.
Okay, thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Great. And then may I ask a question, because I wasn't here back then, but I was looking at the presentation. So once they passed this and we got points for it, as you said, Councilmember House, is it all city buildings, like City of Flagstaff buildings, will have the equitable restrooms?
Correct. So it
Okay.
was, yes, that was I believe the action from council was simply direction that that's what we wanted. And so, and with the adoption of that updated building code, it was part of that code that city-owned buildings or something like that should have equitable restrooms. So with that adoption, the assumption is that all of our buildings are in compliance. That's where it, for me, still comes down to, trust but verify. I just want to
Right.
see what that looks like in practice. It could just be that like there's a restroom in each building that's been converted.
Right.
But I don't know what that looks like in practice. So I'll keep eyes on it and follow up with you if I get any verification.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And it's good to hear that it was actually approved, or we got points for it. And so I'm relieved. Great. Thank you. All right. So we're getting to item number 9, reports, discussion items. Lisa, I'm going to pass this over to you. Updates from the staff liaison.
Okay. Hello, everybody. And I see that my camera there we go. It's on. What I wanted to cover in our update today regarding our rainbow presentation that we had a few weeks ago. And I think it's a little bit further down on our agenda. Is that correct?
So I'm seeing reports, discussions. What I have here is the updates, and right under is 2 items. One is report on the denial of the colored crosswalks, and the other one is participation. Mhm.
So when we get to that section, I will be actually covering a memorandum that was sent out so that we can have a understanding of the report itself and why it was denied. So I'll be doing that when that comes up next. And that's the only update I have thus far. Kara, do you have anything from City Council?
Yeah, since we're right on the back end of that discussion of the equity index, that's the item that came up at council that I am still pretty frustrated with and would like to work with CODA on how we might address it. So long story short, one of the things that we lost 2 points, I believe, for was a category that was essentially that there is an openly LGBTQ member of council or staff or leadership. It was something like that. And what was shared with us by Chris Rohde in the report was that it's points that we have historically gotten. He did not know why we lost them this year, and they have not thus far been responsive when he's been asking, like, why did we lose those points and what is the measure for that? And the reason that I was frustrated by it, it was one of those things that, I was kind of frustrated when I first saw it. Then I got angry as I was thinking about it. And then I was kind of furious by the time we were actually in the city council meeting. But it was the question for me of what is the qualification of openly LGBTQ? And how would anyone actually measure that without risking uh, prejudicial treatment or um, a violation of equal opportunity employment and things like that? So my request when we discussed that was that we reach out to the commission that puts that report together or gives that score. And I think I asked that we demand an answer on that, but I would be happy with just requesting respectfully further discussion on what that qualification was. Part of what I shared with council in my frustration on that was that not only do I not feel that an outside body can fairly or accurately judge if any member of council or staff is a member of the LGBTQ plus community, but also I don't believe that anyone can equitably judge how openly LGBTQ anyone may be. And that openness has very different definitions for different people. So not everyone can be any one group's definition of what open even means within that community. So it's just something that is still very challenging to me. I don't want to just let it go. I don't know how on board the rest of council was in terms of continuing to follow up on it. It was not a matter of trying to get the points. It's, in my mind, more a question of should that even be a question on this survey? And if it is going to remain one, they need to have really good justification of how they're measuring that.
Go ahead, Commissioner Tona.
Kara, I just thank you, and applaud you for everything that you have just said. And HRC sometimes, I think, has measures that are can be brought into question. And this particular one really, to me, conflates personal and policy. I'm not sure how that is reflective of policy. And what you brought up about, equal opportunity and all those sorts of things, it really invites, some kind of conflicted, I think, interpretation of laws and policy and stuff like that. And also another thing that I think is problematic is, for instance, I'm openly gay, but it never really comes up in this meeting. I mean, why should it? The mission of this commission is to foster and appreciate and promote diversities of all peoples. So if a mission is tied to gender identity or sexual orientation, that's one thing. But if it's not relevant to the mission of, say, for instance, city council, any of our commissions or anything like that, I just don't know the relevance, of that particular standard. And I'm with you. How do you measure it? It's really problematic. And maybe we can invite, as CODA, invite Chris next month to, suggest some, I don't know. And Kara, maybe you can help us out here. Some specific actions we can take to support, Kara, in being, looking into this standard and how it's actually implemented and what the measures are and how that is determined. But I really appreciate a critical review of that. Thank you.
And I second that too, because you don't want to start opening up a can of worms with this particular question. We don't want to be identifying persons. We just want to go ahead and make sure that it's equitable. We want the restrooms and whatever it is, we want to make sure it is equitable and not trying to pinpoint persons. And, as you mentioned, Council Member House, it's like why that question is even coming up. Right. So we want to be really, really careful. Yes. Thank you. And you know something, if and commissioners, I'll put it out there for you. If you think we should have a work group to help council member with this, please let me know by the end of the meeting. Let's go ahead, because this is something that is really important. Because when I look at equity for one community, I look at it for all. So I think we should just have our finger and thumbs on this one. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Lisa. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're perfectly fine. That's exactly what needed to be covered. I was hoping that Kara would be here today so that she would cover what came up at City Council. I sat in at the tail end of it, so I wasn't quite sure if I had heard what I heard. And then I was going back and forth because I was in the office, but I was dealing with a bunch of other issues. But I'm glad that she was able to update us on that, and just really kind of bring home the importance of it, and trying to understand why the points got taken away. And as Jean said, she's not sitting on a committee that is, the standard is that she shows who and what she is. But of course, she's on the commission to give awareness and to bring forth opportunities to grow in those areas. So I'm glad we were able to get this out and discuss it today. So next on the list, if you don't mind me moving, just transitioning.
Right. Go right ahead.
Is to our reports on denial for the crosswalk. And I'm going to put myself back on camera, you guys. So there should have been a memorandum attached. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Oh, thank you. It's very long. So what I'm going to do is start with the purpose of the memorandum and kind of give some background information on it. And then I'm going to kind of skip through a couple of segments just so that this is not long-winded. But let's see how it goes. If you guys think it's overkill, you do have those agendas attached to you that were sent out that you can read to yourself. But the purpose of this memorandum came from the Department of Transportation and the Federal Highway Administration. And they basically said this memorandum, the Federal Highway Administration, FHWA, Office of Transportation and Operations, known as HO2, is issuing an official interpretation of Chapter 3G of the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices for Streets and Highways. This is known as MUTCD, and on the approval use of colored pavement. For record-keeping purposes, this official ruling has been assigned the following number and title 3-09-24- I believe that's an I- application of colored pavement. And here's the background on this memo. The FHWA is concerned that the considerable ambiguity continues regarding how colored pavement can be used, especially when the white transverse lines of a legally marked crosswalk, and those are the white lines that you see when you're in a crosswalk. So colored pavement consists of differently colored road paving materials, such as colored asphalt or concrete, or paint or other marking materials applied to the surface of a road or island to simulate a colored pavement. And I'm reading it off of my screen here, and that's why I'm looking in this direction. Colored pavement is a traffic control device when it attempts to communicate with any roadway user or when it's incorporated retroreflective properties. So colored pavement can also be a purely aesthetic treatment. When used in this manner, colored pavement is not a traffic control device, provided that it does not attempt to communicate with the motorist or incorporate elements of retroreflectivization. Colored pavements in crosswalks. In the late 1990s, the marketplace introduced promoted aesthetics treatments for urban streetscape environment that included the opportunity to install a range of colors transverse lines of crosswalks. This was typically done as a part of a larger effort by cities to enhance the aesthetic as of an area that could include decorative luminaires, street furniture, sidewalk art, etc. These crosswalk treatments were publicized and marketed as a method to increase conspicuity of the crosswalk that would translate into increased safety and a reduction of pedestrian death. In December of 2001, the FHWA issued its first official ruling regarding the use of these aesthetic treatments, which concluded that crosswalk enhancement of this type has no such discernible effects on safety or crash reduction. The marketplace looked to capitalize on advancements in pavement retroreflectivity in the mid-2000s and further advocated for these aesthetic treatments on public streets as a way to increase crosswalk visibility. This included the benefits of the increased recognition of crosswalks both during the day and at night, since the materials were designing retroreflective properties into the aesthetic treatment. In 2004 and in 2005, the FHWA issued two separate but relatively official rulings, concluding that incorporating retroreflectivity into an aesthetic crosswalk treatment renders it an official traffic control device. Further, these official rulings continued to discourage implementation of such treatment and also concluded that these enhancements still has no increase effect on safety or contributed to a reduction in pedestrian deaths. The evolution of the crosswalk treatment continued into the form of crosswalk art because it was becoming a common misconception that as long as the white traverse lines, these are the narrow lines that you see, were present, thereby legally marking the crosswalk, then the agency was free to treat the interior, the inside of the crosswalk portion, as desired. In 2011, the FHWA issued an additional official ruling that crosswalk art, defined as any free-form design to draw attention to crosswalk, would degrade the contrast of the white traverse lines, these lines here, against the composition of the pavement beneath it. In deviating from previously official rules on the matter that concluded an increased factor of safety and a decreased number of pedestrian deaths were not evident after the installation, this 2011 official ruling stated that the use of crosswalk art is actually contrary to the goal of increased safety and most likely could be contributing factor to a false sense of security for both motorists and pedestrians. The FHWA's position has always been and continues to be that subdued color aesthetic treatment between the legally marked traverse crosswalk lines are permissible, provided that they are devoid of reflective retroreflective properties, and that they do not diminish the effectiveness of the legally required white traverse pavement markings used to establish the crosswalk. Examples of acceptable treatment include brick lattice patterns, paving bricks, paving stones, set cobbles, or other resource designs to simulate such pavings. Acceptable colors for these materials would be red, rust, brown, burgundy, clay, tan, or similar earth tone equivalents. All elements of patterns and colors for those treatments are to be uniform, consistent, repetitive, and expected so as not to be a source of distraction. No elements of I cannot with this word of the aesthetics interior treatment is to be random or unsystematic. My apologies, you guys. That word is just tripping me up. No element of the aesthetics interior treatment can implement pictographs, symbols, multiple colors, arrangements, etc., or can otherwise attempt to communicate with any roadway users. Patterns or colors that degrade the contrast of the white traverse pavements, markings establishing the crosswalks, are to be avoided. Attempts to intensify this contrast by increasing or thickening with the white traverse pavement markings may have been observed in the field. These attempts to increase contrast are perceived to be efforts to circumvent the contrast prerequisite so that an international non-compliant alternative of an aesthetic interior pattern or color can be used. Further techniques to install an empty buffer spaces between an aesthetic treatment and the interior edge of the white traverse crosswalk markings have also been observed in the field. This strategy is also perceived to be an attempt to circumvent FHWA's prior position on the contrast. However, an empty buffer space between a subdued color uniform pattern aesthetic treatment can be implemented to enhance contrast between the aesthetic treatment and the white traverse pavement. When used properly, buffer spacing can be effective tools to disseminate a necessary contrast in order to visually enhance an otherwise difficult to discern white traverse crosswalk markings, provide that the aesthetic treatment conforms to the condition in the preceding paragraph. And then it goes on to talk about color pavement in mediums and color pavement for islands and color pavement for bicycle lanes. And then it kind of gives an overview of color pavements for freeways and expressways. And it just kind of goes in and breaks it down per need in terms of transit systems and colored pavements for the color blue and what is acceptable, the color purple and what's acceptable, the cryometric cities coordination. Again, these are just all terms about what is acceptable. But here is the conclusion. Chapter 3G of the 2009 MUTCD contains provisions regarding the use of colored pavements. If colored pavement is used to regulate, warn, or guide traffic, or otherwise attempt to communicate with the roadway user, the colored pavement constitutes a traffic control device. Agencies cannot intentionally exclude elements of the retroreflectivity as a part of systematic process to classify the color pavement as a purely aesthetic treatment in order to circumvent the provisions of Chapter 3. So basically what this is telling us is the reason for the denial is because it does not meet the standards for MUT, the traffic control device. So I'm going to bring up something else, and I am going to share my screen if Carolyn permits me to. Thank you, Carolyn.
Yes, you may.
And I'm going to give you guys a visual on everything that I just read because that was a mouthful. So if you take a look at this document, the bright colors and patterns that degrade the contrast of the white markings of the crosswalk are not allowed. The city is required to follow the MUTCD, and any deviations from this from the city could potentially be held liable if there's a crash, if a crash were to occur near a crosswalk, and that is not permitted by the MUTCD. So over here to your right, this is a regular crosswalk that has a little bit of brick in it. That's allowed. The rainbow color that our presenters presented last month is not allowed because it does not go along and coincide with the MUTCD requirements. Whew. Does anyone have any questions?
No, this is very thorough. And I learned a little bit now about crosswalks. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So, Lisa, with that being said, with the denial, I'll let Commissioner Tona speak afterwards. Are you going to reach out to Flag Pride in writing in response to that?
Yes, I will actually. I think legal probably wanted to send this over to them, but
Okay.
I will reach out to see if they did indeed get it, and if not, I will make sure that they get this information. Yes.
Okay. And before Commissioner Turner speaks, I also have a question of, I've seen other cities and other states do such a thing. And I also remember that uh, Vice President for Flag Pride, Alicia, she also gave some examples of other cities and states doing so. That was just my question to, if everybody is following the federal guidelines, then how come some states were able to get it? But I could always ask her that question when I see her too. Go ahead, Commissioner Tona.
Basically, my question would be, and this may be something we can call down to some of the other cities about, already Tempe, Tucson, I believe Glendale, and there may be another few cities in Arizona have these permanent rainbow crosswalks. And it seems rather perplexing to me that all these municipalities would be breaking the law. So I think that there's some workaround, especially a city the size of Tucson or Tempe. These are very large municipalities with very kind of high traffic arteries, more so than Flagstaff. So, I could be the one doing it. I mean, I can call down to Tucson and find out, how they did a workaround on this. But I think it is something to pay attention to, that a number of cities in Arizona have already done this. So, and, if you noticed in the pictures, the crosswalk, the rainbow colors were within that radio or whatever they call it, reflective activity or whatever, white crosswalk. So that's my only comment.
Right, and to add, Commissioner Tona, when in San Diego, I did see some also, but it's the box type, is like the checkered box, and they had the white and they had all the different colors. So it's left to for us to do some more investigation, and I could also reach out to, if you don't mind, I can reach out to Alicia, Vice Chair Alicia, for Alicia Henry, because she did have some appendices that showed us what other cities were doing. So we can take a look at that.
Oh, that would be great. Also, you guys, just to note that the section that I did not cover because it was a mouthful, but again, you guys were emailed out this information. It basically breaks down the colors that can't be used and why they can't be used.
Mm-hmm. Yep. All right. Any other comments on this item?
I just wonder if Alicia is even aware of this memo or the denial, and who actually denied the Did city council deny it, or did the legal deny it, or did the city transportation department? Who actually issued a denial of their?
It came from legal.
Okay. Did they have the power to deny this?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so what I had asked Lisa is who's reaching out to Flag Pride, and when you go ahead and reach out to them, I am going to actually ask Alicia if she could probably respond or come back or share those appendices with us, because I'm pretty sure she did show us some pictures with some other cities or states who were already having
She did. I
the
recall
Conros.
from the presentation, but what I would suggest, and this is Lisa, I'm sorry, I should be on camera. What I would suggest when we reach out to her is that she brings what they actually got approved. Like, what
Right.
did they have to use the workaround to get it approved? Because if we
Yes.
go based off of this, and again, in this document, it was talking about that they have observed it in other counties and realized that it was against the FHWA rule. So I don't know. But again, just to see what has been done in the past and what has been done in Tucson and Tempe and all these other places that got it approved, how did you all get that approved? Would be the question to ask. And I can definitely reach out and ask her to come back and do another presentation.
I just found the PowerPoint, and it does have a whole list of cities around the country, and it also has the one in Phoenix and the one in Tucson. And anyway, I'll send that. I'll email that right now to you, Lisa.
Thank you. Thank you. And I see that Kara Houses, Councilwoman House is typing.
It said that she no longer has access to the chat. I wonder if she got bumped out. Oh, no, she's typing. Okay, so Carol put here in the chat, sorry about that drop off. I am looking at how other cities in Arizona were able to be approved. I'm wondering if there's a difference between city-owned streets and those managed by ADOT Federal. And that is a really good question, and we're about to find that out. And Council Member Howe said that I will follow up with anything I find. Great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Okay, so let's move on to item 9.2, II, which is participation in NAU event and Black History Month. Is that what we covered before?
We did. And I think one of the things that you guys got updated on was about the event that was coming up that Justin was talking about. But Justin, if we still have you, are there other events for Black History Month that we may need to know about as a commission? You're on mute.
And before Justin gets on, I just want to say a heartfelt thanks. Thank you so much, Justin and NAU, for that MLK event over this weekend. And it was wonderful. It started off with a really great, we had breakfast, and then there was a keynote speaker, which was Cora Evans. And Dr. Mallet was there too, with the NAU students to bring that up. Then there was a march from the Dubois Center to the IMQ office. And then there were lots of activities on Saturday, and it ended up with a little meet and greet and dinner event at the Murdoch Center. So I want to say thank you so much. And this is the beginning of much more to come by. Thank you. Thank you for your efforts. Go ahead, Dr. Mallet.
So, one, thank you for that. No, I think the IMQ and BSU did a phenomenal job in putting together the event. I think planning committee, we should also give them credit because it was made up of not only students and faculty and staff, but also community members as well. So Ms. Deb served on the committee, Kim Robinson served on the committee. There were a few other people from the community, and I think moving forward, we have to start to think about this day and this celebration in terms of the area and the region, because, this is the only MLK Day program in the Northern Arizona region. It's the only one in Coconina County. And so how are we going to work together? This shouldn't just this is not Justin Mallet, the VP of Inclusive Excellence take. This is Justin Mallet, Flagstaff community member take on this as well. I think this is something that not only the city of Flagstaff, but the county, I think we should all be invested in this program as well. And moving forward, I think there should be a huge collaborative effort in order to make this should be probably one of the biggest programs that we offer around. So that's just my little that's my $2.25 opinion. You can spend that money how you want to, but am I supposed to say something about Black History Month today, or?
Yes, if you do have anything planned for Black History Month with any you or the community, and if not, we could always talk about it at the other meeting if we are just broadsiding you here.
No worries. I do not know of any programming right now for Black History Month. I do know that the IMQ, which doesn't fall under me, is under our Student Affairs umbrella. I know that they are working on some things as we speak. I know they mentioned a couple of programs that they're looking to do, but I was talking to everybody, so I didn't hear exactly what those events were. But I know what I can do is the moment the IMQ and that team is really good about putting together their list of events in more than ample amount of time. And I will make sure that I get that list and I will get it over to Lisa as well. So I'll get it to Lisa and to you, Carolyn, so you can have it, so you'll know what's going on during Black History Month.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no worries. No worries.
All right, so we want to move on to Part B, discussion with Superintendent Penka on FUSD regarding bus routes. All right, so let me stop sharing my screen. And welcome, Superintendent Penka. Thank you for spending some time with us and giving us some clarifications for some of our questions. Thanks.
Well, thank you for the invitation to attend your meeting today, and hope that I'm able to provide some background on factors that are impacting FUSD's transportation services, and also what led to some changes that we needed to implement beginning on January 4th, and then address any questions that you have. Again, Mike Pence, the superintendent of the Flagstaff Unified School District. Hopefully all of you are aware of FUSD, but we're the largest public school district in our local community and in Northern Arizona. We serve approximately 9,000 students from preschool to grade 12 through 10 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 2 large comprehensive high schools, and then a alternative high school as well. And then since we're talking about transportation, we transport over 2,000 students to and from school on a daily basis. So some background, and these are issues that we've been experiencing not just this year, but in our previous years. The first is that we are experiencing a shortage of drivers, and that's not unique to FUSD or our community or our state. It's really a national shortage. I heard a report yesterday. There's over 1,000 school bus driver openings throughout the state at this time. So there's a need for more drivers. And so that's impacting our services. And then also our operating costs for those services are costing more than the funding we receive from the state. And I'll provide a little more context for those. But because of those two factors, we implemented some changes at the beginning of the school year, and we were really hopeful that that would get us through this school year. Some of those changes were, we've discontinued some of our activity buses, so we're not offering those every day. We're only offering those to students living out in the rural communities. We also expanded our walk zones, so students who were living within a 2-mile distance from their school, if they're within that, that's considered a walk zone, so they wouldn't be eligible for busing. That had been increased in August from 1.5 miles to 2 miles for our middle and high school students. And then we continued to, combine routes. That meant filling our buses fuller with students so that, to address that driver shortage. Understanding that this would be an ongoing concerns that our district needed to deal with. Our governing board created an ad hoc committee that meets at least monthly, and we talk about these factors and possible solutions, for things related to student ridership, our routes, our budget, arrival and dismissal times. We look at alternatives to bus transportation, student safety, and then also our employee attraction and retention. For some context on the shortage, our director of transportation, he would love to have 15 more drivers than we have right now. And also, we just actually last week were able to hire a trip driver. We haven't had one of those for the past 2 years. So a trip driver runs the routes that take our students for activities and athletics out of town. You're probably familiar, a lot of our sports programs, athletic programs, we compete against not only school districts in northern Arizona, but we travel down to the Phoenix area because there aren't high schools the same size as us in this region. And so because we haven't had trip drivers, we've had to use a charter service for those bus services, which costs significantly more than if we're able to have our own staff driving our own yellow buses on those out-of-town trips. We've had at times to cancel daily routes for families last year, especially just because we're so short. If we had a driver call in sick or need leave, and all the management team at transportation was already driving a bus, we would have to call parents the morning of and cancel routes. And we know that's really disruptive. And so we tried to make some of these changes so that we could have, predictable routes. And so our families wouldn't just get a call the morning of saying, we don't have a bus for your child. We continue to try to hire drivers. It seems like right now, every time we get somebody hired and go through the training process, which can take 5 to 6 weeks, they're just then replacing somebody who decides to retire or resign. And so we're not gaining ground on that shortage. Our budget, again, our expenses are exceeding the revenues that we receive from the state. Our district receives a about $5.7 million annually under the transportation revenue control limit. And that amount hasn't changed over time. We actually have been grandfathered in, and actually that's a higher amount we would receive than if we were, our funds were based on actual miles driven and actual students in the buses. We actually would receive about $3 million a year, but because of the rural nature of our district and the kind of amount of miles and students we were driving several years ago, we get grandfathered in at that revenue control limit. But what that means is while our costs continue to go up, like for fuel or repairs, having to use the charter service, our staff costs, our city's minimum wage and state's minimum wage have continued to increase, but we're not getting any new revenue. We're staying flat at that $5.7 million. So since we've come back from the pandemic, our costs are exceeding our state budgeted amount. This last year, our costs were $8.5 million. So we get $5.7 million and it's costing us $8.5 million. So it cuts into our district's reserves and other operating funds that we would use. So, those aren't new changes, and I felt like we had a plan to get us through this school year and a committee to help us problem solve and come up with, next steps for future years. But in October, we had an individual in our community file a complaint with the Arizona Department of Public Safety alleging that our buses were overcrowded. And so we had the Department of Public Safety officials investigated that complaint. They cited some state law administrative codes. There's two sections in there. One that, we should not transport students on buses with more passengers than the rated capacity on a bus. If you've been on a bus, you kind of remember up above the driver's head, there's usually a number posted, and that's the official capacity of the bus. FUSD has never loaded our buses above that capacity, and DPS confirmed that. But they cited another administrative code is a little bit different from direction we've had in the past, but it says that all passengers shall sit with their backs against the seat backs, their legs facing forward towards the front of the school bus, and all parts of their bodies clear of the aisles whenever the bus is in motion. And I rode a bus when I was a kid, and you passed our buses. It's probably not atypical to see some movement of students and kids in that aisle, but that is the rule and what they're enforcing. And in order for us to resolve the complaint, DPS ordered that for our buses that carry our middle and high school students or our larger students, they ordered that we only fill those buses with 2 students per seat than what we had been filling with the 3 students per seat, which is what that capacity that's posted is based on. And, so what that does is reduce like our 72 passenger buses, that's what it says up top. We can now only put 48 middle and high school students on there. Our 77 passenger buses now are reduced to 50 students. Our 84 passenger buses, our largest, we can now only put 56 students on there. And so to solve that issue, the DPS said, well, just add more routes. It was like, well, we don't have any more drivers to add those routes. Well, just run more loops, more tiers in your busing, to get them to and from school. And we said, well, we're a school district that is, one of the largest in the entire country at 4,400 square miles. Our routes, some of them go an hour and a half, in every direction from Flagstaff. It's not as simple as just running another loop. But by the time we got them there and ran another group, the school day would be over. So what our committee came up with is that we really needed to look at our eligibility criteria and prioritize the students that our district would be able to offer transportation to. Now, the state law only requires public school districts to provide transportation to students who receive special education and require that transportation service. Also requires us to transport students in foster care and also students who are experiencing homelessness. That's the only like must that we must transport. Now we may transport and again receive state funding when we transport other students, and so we had to make some difficult decisions. We prioritized our youngest students over our older students. So we're continuing busing with no changes to elementary, but we have some changes for middle and high school. We prioritized rural busing, so coming in from the Navajo Nation, Loop and Cameron areas, Belmont, Munns Park, Kachina, those areas over students who are living in town and closer to their school. And then again, we didn't make changes that would impact. I guess we also prioritized Summit High School, our alternative high school, over our other secondary schools. So the changes that we communicated to families beginning, early to mid-December, that effective January 4th, we would discontinue busing for middle and high school students who were attending their out-of-boundary schools. So, each of our schools have a boundary. Our state and our district, obviously, state law requires open enrollment as long as there's capacity. And we just, again, a prioritization was we're going to provide busing to those students who are attending their neighborhood school rather than if their parent and the student have decided to attend a magnet program or their non-neighborhood school. The other change we've implemented is to discontinue transportation for all high school students who live within the Flagstaff city limits. And again, we would continue that rural busing for those high school students. And the district has purchased Mountain Line transit bus passes for any students, middle and high school, who've been affected by these two changes. We've purchased a semester pass, that'll allow those students to get transportation to school, but also they can use those for other community weekend purposes through June. So we communicated those changes to our families. I'm really grateful to our partnership with Mountain Line, and we had in-person sessions where we could assist with route planning to issue both mobile or physical transit Mountain Line bus pass. Again, the district is covering the cost of those. And we've had over 200 of our students. So there's about 600 students impacted by these changes at the, of those first, by the, January 4th, when the changes went into effect, we had over 200 students already signed up for Mountain Line bus passes. So we're happy with that. We understand some parents have concerns about that or have made other arrangements, to transport them themselves, carpooling. We've, especially as the weather improves, we'll be encouraging, different modes of transportation. We've also been, I presented and are working with MetroPlan. They've received a grant that can help with some of the safe routes to school improvements for areas we identify where there may not be proper sidewalks or other means for students to use some of those other modes of transportation, like walking, biking. We see all the electric scooters and things now that students are able to use as well. So we'll continue to work on some of those other modes of transportation. I think that's kind of the background and the changes we've implemented. I will welcome any questions, and if your chair will help just facilitate the questions, that'd be great.
Wonderful, Superintendent Pinker. Thank you so much. There's a lot of information, and it's always good for us to know, as a resident and a citizen, the why behind it. Because I know it wasn't just, hey, we want to cut it. It had to be a why, and I'm so happy that you're here. To let us know, and I will definitely take some questions now from the floor. I see Dr. Mallet has his hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be like, be quiet this whole meeting, but I don't see that happening. But so thank you for sharing that information. That really helps. And I guess here's my question, and I'm looking ahead because I'm going to have a family moving here to Flagstaff. I'm going to have a middle schooler coming in as well, and so. I just want to understand the options, so to say, because I can definitely see the safety concern of me putting a new kid in this community on the city bus. And so that makes me nervous. And then it makes me nervous just how the climate is and what we hear on the news and whatnot of putting a young female on a city bus as well. And so has there been any discussions about if parents don't have those options of carpooling and not knowing people in the community that they can connect with? Has there been any discussions of setting up a carpool list that people can contact and work with? Or has there been any conversations of if you can show um, some sort of distress or inability to make those things work, that student could still maybe catch the bus somewhere else, vice versa?
So, couple of thoughts that I have to respond to your question. First, welcome and look forward to having your family come to this great community. And, if I can assist with answering questions about the educational services we offer in FUSD, be glad to do so. So, transportation is occurring, but again, we've had to do some prioritization. If you, let's say you're a middle schooler, if you reside outside that 2-mile walk zone, you would be eligible, from the neighborhood middle school that your child's attend to. Now, again, there is an open enrollment. Sometimes families choose to attend like our other middle school. But if you're attending your neighborhood school and you're outside 2 miles, you would sign up during the registration process for that bus, the FUSD yellow school bus transportation services. Mountain Line, again, I'm grateful for their partnership. They've been transporting K-12 students for many years. Prior to FUSD beginning this partnership this current semester, they were transporting over 300 middle and high school students daily, primarily to some of the charter schools that are in our community. And so they've been in the transporting kid business for a while. There are lots of safety measures. They can report things to their driver. There's an app, there's a button you can push on the bus. They have all kinds of cameras, more cameras that give audio and video on their buses than actually we have on our yellow school buses. So there's lots of ways, to report if there are issues. And, we're now into, 2 weeks of FUSD students, more FUSD students riding the Mountain Line buses, and I have yet to hear of any safety instances that have occurred on that bus. And I don't know, I spent time in my life, like in Chicago. I love public transportation. And I think, as we think about our like climate action goals for our community too, I think a silver lining may be that we have our students get more exposure to a life skill that they may, help reach our community goals, but they may need in another community if that's where they end up, in their future. I'm trying to think. You asked, there was a last part that I wanted to address. Justin, or you think of anything, what I'm missing? I know you had a third part to that.
No, I was just curious if there was like, if you wanted to take that carpool, like take advantage of that carpool, is there like through the school district, is there like a list or like a listserv of people who may want to partner up and carpool?
Yeah, we haven't established that yet, but we're exploring. There's a vendor who we have reached out to understand more about their product, but it's kind of like I don't know, some kind of, I think of it like a social media or I don't want to say a dating site, but one of those things where you're able to express like your need, and it helps to make some of those matchups, and some districts throughout the country are using that. And so our director of operations has reached out so we can get a demo and understand that might be something we're able to roll out in the future to help promote that kind of ride sharing opportunities. But the things I want to ask about, like, is the safety components to that with the background checks and all that, keeping it a secure site so, we don't have students getting in cars and stuff. But I might be naive and I just haven't learned much about it yet. And so I'm want to hear more, but that's something we are exploring. But there could be other means just of, the school creating a kind of a carpool, helping to facilitate a carpool list and some other ways. So we just always have to be careful with, we have to make sure we always have parent permission to be able to share student information, all those things, and want to do it in a safe way.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I don't know.
Go ahead, Commissioner Jarvis.
I just want to say thank you for coming to present to us. I really appreciate the fact that you've really tried hard to accommodate the students that really need the service the most, because they are obviously disproportionately affected by this change. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your feedback.
There are some few questions in the chat. Commissioner Sanchez asked, are there any additional resources available for students with disabilities who reside in the expanding walking zones? That was one question. Go ahead.
So, yeah, I mean, any student with disability is, they have a team, and that includes the parent, students, especially as they get older, involved in that process, and then, their teachers and the other specialists in that special education area. And so it's really a team decision to determine if they're eligible or not for special transportation. We have separate buses for students with disabilities. There's sometimes there's an accessibility need, and so a type of bus or seating that's needed. It may have a need just that they need an extra adult on that bus to provide assistance. So that's determined by that team, and if that team checks on that student's individual plan that they're eligible for transportation services, then they would never be denied busing services. Even if they lived 2 blocks from their school, they would still receive that busing if that's needed. Did that address the question?
Commissioner Sanchez, did that address your question? I will wait till, yes, she said, thank you for your response. Yes. And Dr. Mallet, when he spoke about the list for the schools, for students or or family members, to put that list together, because there's some persons with minivans and all of that would like to be part of that pool. It reminded me when I used to live in Orlando, Florida, we had a shortage of drivers at one point in time after a hurricane, just wipe us out, and we still there, right? There was a list that the principal of a couple of schools, they did put a list and people were signing up. And then, of course, what they did, little inspections of the vehicles because they wanted to make sure that it was safe. And they had that they had that rolling list, of parents doing that, and they left the yellow buses more for when they had football or any, all the other activities when, football is number one, right? So they had to go to other schools and stuff like that. And they also got churches involved because some churches had buses too. Some churches had 15 seaters and all of that. So reaching out to the community, supervisor, sorry, not supervisor, but Superintendent Penka, you're not in this alone. Reach out to the community, to all these other places that may have buses. Some hotels have shuttles too that might be offline, right? So reach out. You're not alone in this. We want to help, but let us know. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate those suggestions. I hadn't thought of even some of the other um, um, community, like churches or hotels that have shuttles and certified drivers for that as well. So, yeah, like I said, our committee, that's one of the topics that's on our, our monthly meetings is talk about alternatives to bus transportation. And like I said, like a ride sharing, how we can assist in creating those connections. And then, we're looking at the safe routes for school. And then you just added some more ideas for our committee to discuss. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks. Anybody else want to have any other questions for Superintendent Penka? Okay, hearing none. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm hoping that we will speak again because, whatever sector of the community, if there's an issue or problem, it is our problem too, right? So,
Yeah.
so thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and yeah, let me know if I can come back and you can help me solve some more of our opportunities or challenges that we have. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, wonderful. Okay, so did Lisa join us back? Because I know Lisa just had to step away for a while.
I am here.
Okay,
I am
good.
here.
So I just for commissioners on area of interest to work on for 2024. We don't have to discuss it right now, but if you could think about it, Lisa will be sending a list of the work groups that we have had for 2023. And we want to open it up for commissioners if they have any interest of any area of interest that you want us to work on 2024. So I would kind of leave that for an email communication because we kind of pressed for time. Is that okay with everyone? Yes?
That's perfect. Thank you.
Great. Okay, collaboration with the library.
This
Commissioner
is
Toner?
Toner, and we met in December, and we, or maybe it was the end of November. I think we met right before the holidays, and everybody took their assigned list of tasks that they were going to bring back in January, and we set this our meeting for tomorrow. So I don't have an update this month, but we all, and Alika and some of the other people on the committee, we all had our lists of things we were going to be researching or investigating. And of course, Felicia has done a wonderful job of collecting the tech that we need, the technological resources that we need. So we're pretty close to ready for kickoff. We're still, I will find out tomorrow about one of the things that's holding us up is approval on our release of information or consent to participate. So anyway, I think we're pretty close to a kickoff, and I'll have more next month because we'll be meeting tomorrow. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Commissioner Tona. I know Felicia is doing a lot because I speak to her ever so often on other things. And I know she is doing a lot. I am really, really thankful for her and a dedication and commitment, yes, for collaboration.
Yeah, she may need to get an award for the most effective worker in town.
Yes,
it's amazing.
yes. So the Viola Awards is coming up. So that's another
True.
announcement I will make for the next meeting. I'll make sure it's on the agenda, right? So Viola Awards coming up. So look out for those. Look out for those little categories. We probably need to put her up there for one. Okay, so action item E, update on the fair items on the equitable restrooms. We went through that. Any other comments on that? Anybody would like to add?
Nope, but I
No.
will definitely be doing the follow-up to get that information.
Great, thank you so much. And I hate to be a spy, but if you can get some photographs of where it's already happening, I don't know. I'm just over the top asking, sorry.
Well, I know it's not in City Hall. That I can tell you. But I'll
Okay.
check. I do have to go to a couple of other buildings coming up in the next couple of weeks, so I will check and I will let you know.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you for that update. And 9F, anti-camp ordinance, review of data to move to another committee. Were we still going to move that to another committee?
I have a funny fit. Was Mandy or Bethany the ones that was working on this? Does anybody know? Does anybody recall?
I think both of them. So since Bethany's no longer with us, I think Mandy will be able to probably give us a little more insight. So we could just go ahead and move it to the next month's agenda.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Commissioner Tona said pictures is a great idea. We don't want to send you as the spy. But
I don't think I can do that anyway. I don't think legally I
okay,
can do
okay.
it.
especially with restrooms. We don't want right.
Yeah.
We don't want that issue.
I'll just report back what I visually see.
Wonderful. All right. So item 10, agenda for future meetings. So we're going to bring back the anti-camp ordinance review of the data. We'll wait till Commissioner Amandi's here with us so we can talk about that. The discussion on the commemorative flag update from Rose Tohei. I know that is for future meetings.
And Rose is actually here. Can I say something?
Rose, yes.
Good
Happy New
afternoon,
Year,
everybody. Yeah, and I just wanted to get a little bit more clarification on this flag that is for me to discuss. I'm not sure if you're all talking about the Native American Heritage Month flag or if it's a different flag. So I just want some clarification on that.
I think it actually started off being the Native American heritage. But Jean, can you remind me what that was for when we first started it?
I think that we were trying, this is something that's kind of come and gone in this commission for about 3 years, but I think that the last step was passing over to Rose and the Indigenous Commission kind of stepping out of that particular flag because it really is more, I know that Rose has done an enormous amount of work on that. And we, if my memory serves me correctly, and maybe Kara can help out here, we also stepped away from Black History Month. And I believe that Kara had actually submitted some proposals. And so what that left was a discussion of should there be an all diversity sort of flag for the months that we did not have particular ones. And one of the things I don't think we ever really discussed was coordination with City Council, because the city puts up, from time to time, their own, kind of awareness flags. So it's not really we don't own that diversity flagpole by any means. We would be one of the people suggesting things. So if that's my recollection. Is that what you remember, Rose?
I actually don't remember it, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
I know that there was mention of a diversity flag. There was a mention of, I think, a commemorative flag, but I didn't get the details as to what they would represent. And so, but on the other hand, it was Councilmember House who recommended that we update our flags for Native American Heritage Month and Black History Month, which I totally supported because we did. Ours was very much tattered and was not representative of our area. And so, which was really something that was awesome to work on. And so, and from that point, that part is finished. Our new Native American Heritage Month flag, and as you can, I just shared that here is.
Wow.
This is the one that we unveiled during Indigenous Peoples Day.
It's beautiful. It's
So
absolutely beautiful.
and this is the one that has all the Indigenous nations that regard the peaks as sacred. They have all their names on here. To even though we can't see it from the street, that we just know they're there. So I just wanted to get that information to you regarding the completion of the Native American Heritage flag for November.
It's just fabulous.
Thank you. So in the case of the commemorative flag, I really don't have anything to go on unless there's something that you're willing to give me for me to work on.
I don't think we ever got that far with an all diversity type of flag. We just never got that far. So, and again, you know, the flagpole that they use for different kinds of awareness, again, that's not the purview of just CODA. We can't kind of own that. That's many different, you know, it's the city and other commissions and stuff like that. So as far as I know, we haven't actually taken any action or done anything, you know, other than kind of talk about it, Rose. So that's my understanding.
That is
Okay.
correct. That's where we left off.
Sounds great. Okay, so I guess you can take me off the agenda for
Fabulous.
future meetings, right?
Yes, ma'am. We can definitely do that.
I see Councilmember House hand went up.
Oh, nope. I was just going to say exactly what was just said, that, yeah, I believe this was on just so we would get that update from Rose on the Indigenous Heritage Month flag. And so, yeah, I think that is done. And I can confirm as well that the Pan-African flag was recommended and approved by City Council for Black History Month. So that will hopefully be updated starting next month.
Yay.
Awesome. Councilmember House, which one was used? Because we had two we put in there. The Pan American?
Yes.
Pan-African?
So I don't know which version. I mean, it's
Which version?
The Pan-African flag is just the red, black, and green.
Mhm.
And I know in the presentation there was one that showed that with like Black History Month written on it. It's just going to depend on what the city can actually find and order. So
Okay.
we shall see.
Yay. Good. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rose, for clarifying with us, because as Commissioner Tona said, we just had it there and we recognize that Native American but Native American History Month, what I did show that that new flag that you had there, and I know we were working together for Black History Month to get a flag too. So as we pull those out, then we could probably put this commemorative flag to rest, commissioners.
Yep.
Yeah. Do I have a motion on the floor? Any second? We're gonna put it to rest.
I'll second.
All right. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Lisa.
So the final one, to not take Carolyn's place, but I see that we're running over time, so I'll be real quick.
Good.
The discussion of former efforts for women's rights was a project that I was working on with Bethany, and when she departed, we kind of moved into another direction with that. We was working on a calendar. I was trying to get it uploaded to the city's website, but the area in which I was trying to upload it, it would not work on the site. So I want to keep this one on because I think moving forward, we'll have some working group sessions to kind of strategize on the best way to bring that back in. I know that 2024, there'll be a lot of things coming up regarding women's rights. And, you know, we want to make sure that we do make that a focal point on this commission, especially when it comes to health issues, things of that nature.
Wonderful, great. And Lisa, that I put in the chat, once you send us the work groups, we can put that on there. I see Commissioner Jarvis said she can work on that with us to the Women's
Fabulous.
Rights Commission, and I wanted to be on that also.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Okay, so with nothing else left to discuss, hopefully, right? I want to adjourn this meeting, a meeting of CODA at 3:12 p.m. today. And everyone have a wonderful, blessed day and week. Take care.
Thank you all. Wonderful meeting. Thank you.
Great job, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Great job.